Hello, my name is Amanda Green, and today I'm going to be talking about books and authors that have focused on reaching students with anxiety and how helpful these authors and these titles can be in your classroom library. So the first author is Julia Cook, who wrote Wilma Jean, the Worry Machine. So Julia Cook writes many social emotional books. That is her forte, and these books put children's feelings into words. Often, children struggle with being able to explain what exactly they're feeling or having trouble with, and her books put it into kid-friendly terms and help them vocalize their feelings and struggles. And she also gives them strategies to cope with these situations. Her books help both the children and the parents. These are some other titles she has written, such as Sorry I Forgot to Ask, Thanks for the Feedback, which is about accepting feedback, both criticism and compliments, My Mouth is a Volcano, and Teamwork Isn't My Thing and I Don't Like to Share, as well as But It's Not My Fault. This next author is Kevin Hanks, and he's written Wemberly Worried. He is a writer and an illustrator. His book Kitten's First Full Moon actually won the Caldecott Medal, which is a prestigious award for picture books. He is also widely known as the author of Chrysanthemum, and he writes fantasy with talking animals that have lives that seem real. That's his writing style. So these are some of his other titles, such as Chrysanthemum, Julius, the Baby of the World, Owen, and Chester's Way. And for example, Julius, the Baby of the World is a great book for character development, and it's very relatable. It's about struggling with a new baby sibling. So he writes stories about struggling with anxiety, changes in life, etc. So I Feel Worried is a book that focuses on tips for kids on overcoming anxiety. It's written by Nadine Briggs, who writes, again, various books focusing on social skills. And she writes books on how to deal with various emotions in particular. She is a social educator and has expertise and certifications in bullying prevention. She also writes titles such as How to Make and Keep Friends, I Feel Mad, I Need to Win, and more. So she really writes a bunch of how-to books and tip books, etc. So this next author is Trevor Romaine, and he wrote Stress Can Really Get on Your Nerves, which is all about dealing with stress and anxiety. And he's an author, illustrator, and motivational speaker. He writes about bullies, cliques, and other self-help books. And he writes in a funny and relatable way, and that's his main writing style. He also writes The Great Moving Adventure, Cliques, Phonies, and Other Baloney, Taking the Duh Out of Divorce, and Bullies Are a Pain in the Brain. This next author is Carrie Dunn Buran, and she writes When My Worries Get Too Big. So it's a book that's focusing on the relaxation for children who live with anxiety, so trying to relax them down, calming them down. And this book in particular actually comes with teaching activities, so it's great for both children to read and teachers to use, and use those activities at the end of the book. She is an autism research specialist, and she actually developed the 5-point scale, which you'll see in a moment. And she writes self-help books for kids. And she has a lot more published papers than she does books. So this is one book. It's the second edition. It's Learners on the Autism Spectrum, Preparing Highly Qualified Educators and Related Practitioners. So this is a book in particular that's helpful for professionals. She wrote Adeline's Claire. And this is the 5-point scale I was talking about. As you can see, 5 is red, and there's a visual that goes with it. 4, 3, 2, and 1 is clearly the happy, and calm and relaxed. And so it's color-coded, there's a visual, and this is helpful for children with autism. The next book is What to Do When You Worry Too Much, A Kid's Guide to Overcoming Anxiety by Dawn Huebner. She is a clinical psychologist, and she's actually specialized in treating anxious children. So this book is extremely helpful coming from a clinical psychologist who specializes in this particular field. She writes what to do guides, so this book in particular not only puts anxiety into words, but it also gives tips and tricks and strategies on how to handle those emotions. She's also a parent coach and motivational speaker. She also wrote What to Do When You Dread Your Bed, which focuses on children's problems with sleeping. What to Do When Your Brain Gets Stuck, so that focuses on overcoming OCD. And What to Do When Your Temper Flares, which is a guide on overcoming problems with anger. So as you can see, she touches on other issues and feelings and emotions that children may be struggling with and gives them tips and tricks and strategies so that they can apply those on their own. This is Cornelia Spellman. She writes When I Feel Worried. So she writes the Way I Feel books, and then you'll see in a moment that she writes plenty of them. So she uses animals in particular this hamster, to focus on various emotions and feelings and struggles such as anxiety, and she puts those feelings, thoughts, and struggles into words so children can vocalize what they're going through, and she gives, again, strategies. So you're probably sensing a theme here. She's a writer, artist, and clinical social worker, and she writes about the value of taking care of your emotions and relationships because of what she witnessed in her work. So through being a social worker, she realized that often children and even parents and families struggle with how to deal with certain emotions, going through grief, how to work on their relationship, and they really had no idea how to handle these. So that's why she wrote books for children in particular and families on how to handle that and vocalize feelings. So she also wrote When I Miss You, When I Feel Angry, which uses a bunny, and When I Feel Jealous. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about the connecting threads between these books. So as you can see, a lot of these authors have worked in psychology or social work. They're specialists in those fields, so they're not just writers. They don't just write children's books. They have that background that supports their ability to write about helping children with anxiety and other struggles. So these books in particular all focused on anxiety, and if you notice, they're all how-to books, or for the most part, they're how-to books or tips and tricks books. So it doesn't just explain anxiety in a child and what they're feeling, it also supports them on how to take those feelings and go from there. And like I said, there's strategies given, and it's really focused on self-help. Teachers, you can use these books as read alouds, or if you notice your student is struggling, you can select this book for them and have them read it, or send it home with a family and say, I think this is a good read for you. And these books in particular are obvious just from the title that they deal with anxiety and worrying, and it's not, a sneaky way of putting it. So if another child sees them reading it, they're going to automatically know what they're reading about. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. They can also help other children in the classroom understand what their classmates might be going through and why it's important to not necessarily pick on someone if they're shy and don't want to read out loud, or if they're worried about something that you're not worried about, because these students don't always see the bigger picture and what's really going on in these children's minds. So these books would be great to also share with students who don't have anxiety and teach them about acceptance and patience and how to be friends with someone with anxiety. And so I want to take another moment to give some more resources out. This website, childanxiety.net, is a great one for parents and families to go on, as well as worrywisekids.org, and the second one's a child-friendly website. I just selected a generalized anxiety book, I Bet I Won't Fret, a workbook to help children with generalized anxiety disorders. That's a great one for 9 to 12-year-olds. It's just generalized anxiety. It's a workbook, so it's not just reading, but there's also activities that they do with it to help them sort through these feelings and struggles. This book is for parents. Right here, Helping Your Anxious Child, a step-by-step guide for parents. So it's giving tips and advice to the parents on how to help their child. And overall, this website down at the bottom, which is being covered right now, but you'll see in one moment, is where I got these other resources, and there's a ton more websites on anxiety in general or other struggles such as OCD and post-traumatic stress disorder. There's also some books listed that get into specific anxiety, such as bedtime anxiety or post-traumatic stress anxiety, etc. So those would be great to check out. Thank you.